Hello, I'm Alan Holtham. Welcome to this buyer's guide to dust extractor. Now you usually find if you're kitting out a workshop, the dust extractor is way down low on the shopping list. In actual fact, it should be right up at the top. And there are lots of reasons why you must buy a dust extractor. For a start, we're all becoming more and more aware of the problems of dust and its effects on your health. Even relatively low levels of exposure can cause serious damage. And what's more, the effects are cumulative, so you often don't find you've got symptoms until it's far too late. It's not just your health that suffers as well. If you don't use an extractor, you get a fine film of dust settling out all over the workshop, and you get shavings all over the floor. It's just not pleasant to work in. It's also a fire risk. Even the smallest workshops are becoming more and more mechanised, with lots of fast, high-revving machinery producing clouds of fine dust, so extraction is now a necessity rather than a luxury. The extractor will only work efficiently if the tool or machine you're connecting to has been properly engineered for dust extraction. This is a good example, the planer thicknesser. We've got a hood that hinges over the cutter block, extracts away from all these moving parts. Put that over the top, lock it in place, make sure it's firm, and all we have to do is connect up the pipe. Nothing could be easier than that. And remember, the extractor is only part of a safe working approach. In many situations it's appropriate to use either a dust mask or a respirator as well, and always ensure plenty of good ventilation. You need to understand there are two types of dust: nuisance dust and respirable dust, and the classification for these is based on the particle size. Nuisance dust covers particles bigger than 5 microns. These are normally trapped and expelled by the mucous membranes in your lungs and don't cause any long-term damage, but prolonged exposure can cause you some health problems. They're normally produced by machining softwoods. Respirable dust covers particles from 5 microns down to half a micron, and these are normally produced when you're machining hardwoods or man-made materials like MDF or during most sanding operations. And these are what accumulate in your lungs and cause the long-term damage. The temptation is to just buy one of these, a standard wet or dry vacuum cleaner. Now these are fine for cleaning around the house, but the filters just aren't good enough to cope with the very fine dust produced during woodworking operations. The motors aren't designed for continuous running either, and the waste capacity just isn't sufficient. What you need is one of these, a purpose-built extractor with proper filters designed to cope with the very fine dust, motors designed to run on a continuous basis, and loads of storage capacity as well. There are two completely different types of dust extractor, and the principle of operation on them is completely different as well. There are high volume, low pressure, and high pressure, low volume extractors. Now this is a good example of a high volume, low pressure extractor. We have an induction motor sitting on top of the machine, and this drives a very large impeller. This is the impeller, it's like a big fan. With this spinning at speed, it draws huge amounts of air in through the tube. The air travels through the machine and is exhausted out through the filter sac, with the waste dropping into the bag below here. Because this is a high volume extractor, you can't restrict the airflow in any way. That means the weave on this filter sac has to be fairly open to allow these vast volumes of air to be shifted through very quickly. Consequently, although the nuisance dust is collected within the sac, the fine respirable dust, the dangerous stuff, passes straight through into the atmosphere of the workshop. However, you can overcome that by replacing the filter sac with a fine filter cartridge. This has a pleated paper surface with a huge surface area, and this doesn't restrict the airflow in any way, but it will collect those particles down to the half micron size, those dangerous respirable particles, all collected within this cartridge. Now this type of extractor is ideal for the high waste producers like a planer thicknesser or a spindle moulder. The only snag is you can't use it on power tools because you cannot restrict the 100mm hose down to the required 32mm size. These have now been redefined as chip collectors. They're quiet and smooth running, but they are quite bulky if you're short of space. The other type of extractor is a high pressure, low volume type, the vacuum extractor. This is an example. On these, the motor within the lid generates a vacuum within the drum here, and that sucks the dust-laden air up the pipe into the drum. And these operate with a high revving brush motor. This is continuously rated, which means you can run it for up to 4 hours provided you use the 100mm diameter hose. Now, because it's working at such high pressure, there's no problem reducing the airflow, so we can use much finer filters that will collect down to half micron sized particles, the respirable, the dangerous dust. The filter unit is a cartridge like this, fitting inside a paper bag. Just push it inside, fold the paper over, and this then tucks over the motor unit like that. And that's all you can see within the lid of the unit. Also, because there's no problem reducing the airflow, we can use 100mm diameter pipe on bigger machines, or we can take that off and fit a 32mm diameter pipe to suit power tools. So it's much more versatile. Now, all sorts of configurations of the extractor type. There's bag type, there's 1 motor, 2 motor, wall mounted, floor mounted. So let's have a look at a few of the variations. All the machines in the vacuum range use the same 1 kilowatt motor and the same filter system. You just have to decide whether you want a single motor unit or a twin motor unit. Single motor units are better for the smaller workshop where you can dedicate the extractor to a single machine, or you don't mind swapping it from one machine to another. For a larger workshop, a twin motor machine might be better. This you can build into a system extracting from several machines at once. There's another advantage of twin motors as well. Remember, we talked about 4 hours continuous use when using a 100mm diameter hose. If you're using a 32mm diameter hose, the rating of the motor is reduced to 40 minutes. You have to rest it for 20 minutes every hour. If you're using a twin motor unit, you can swap from one motor to another to give you that continuous rating. The next decision is whether to go for a drum type or a bag type. The drum type like this provides a neat and clean solution, and the drums are available with a capacity of 25 to 80 litres. The advantage of these is they can be pushed under the bench, shoved behind a machine. Do remember though, when the drum is full of very fine dust, it's really heavy, so if you've got a wheel kit, they're dead easy to move around. The bag type use exactly the same motor and filter unit, but they're wall mounted to save space. And these are available with a capacity up to 200 litres. So much better for big waste producers like planers. Now, if you're thinking about building a permanent ducted system, the vacuum type are obviously far better, but a twin motor unit is probably a better option. You can buy blast gates to shut off the pipe, the machines that aren't being used, to maximise the suction. There are also small 2.5 inch diameter kits available for fine dust. You can see you get blast gates, bends and angles. You can build a nice system. For chip collecting, you really need a 100mm diameter pipe, and for this you can buy length of spiral ducting, or you can go to builders merchants and buy a standard soil pipe. Now, one of the advantages of a vacuum system, if you need more suction capacity later, if you add more machines on or extend the pipe runs, you don't have to change your extractor. You can add another one, either side by side, or if it's a long pipe run, put one at either end of the run. The more units you add, the more the suction capacity. There's also an option to buy models with automatic switching. What this means is you can plug your power tool directly into the extractor, and then when you start the power tool up, the extractor starts up on its own automatically. Then, when you switch the power tool off, the extractor runs on for a little while to clear all the dust in the pipe, and then again switches itself off automatically. If you've already got an extractor and it doesn't have this very useful auto switching feature, you can buy an add-on box which allows you to add auto switching to whatever power tool you want. In fact, you can put 2 tools on at once and connect them both to the extractor. When you're buying your extractor, make sure you choose a manufacturer with a good range of accessories to go with it. You can see here in the Record Power range, we've got reducers to connect to power tools all sorts of different diameters. You can accommodate anything. We've got rigid connectors and bends if you're building a pipe system. We've got wheel kits to help you move the drum about. Bendable connectors that stay put so you can point them exactly where the dust is being produced. We've got different filter sacks, different collection sacks, and remember, you can upgrade the whole motor unit to automatic switching. This is a very useful accessory. This is the Easy Fit cuff. This just fits onto the end of the pipe and allows you to fit it on the machine with ease. If you're dealing with a lot of very fine dust on a regular basis, MDF for example, the paper filter will soon clog. On these machines you can add an additional filter sack as well. So you can see with this range of record power dust extractors and all these accessories, you can cope with virtually any woodworking dust extraction situation.